We promised you we'd be doing some demos over the next couple of days, and we are doing Creative Grid log cabin rulers. You think there's one? There's not. There's many of them, and we're going to show you 7 of them, or we have 7 of them online. And I'm going to show you how to use one of them, but I'm going to show you some of the projects that are done with some of the various rulers as well. Okay, so the very first one that I was introduced to was the 8-inch log cabin ruler, and it probably was the first one they came out with, and the first one I used. In fact, the first Creative Grid ruler that I ever used. It's a fabulous ruler, as they all are, and I've told many of you have heard me talk before about these. They have the grip, the pumice on the back. They all have the code for the particular ruler directly underneath the logo. And if you punch that video or that logo in, you're going to bring up this ruler. It's going to show you this ruler, your instructions if you happen to lose yours. They do come with the ruler. They're fabulous instructions. But if you lose yours, you can print them off by going to that code on your computer. In addition to that, they're going to have some really good, clear videos on using the ruler. I'm going to give you just a little brief run through on them today. But if you really want good direction on all the rulers, you'll go there and look at it. Okay, so they brought out the 8-inch log cabin, and then right after that, they brought out the 12 and 6. And this is a combination ruler. It does the 12-inch block in 1.5-inch strips, or it does the 6-inch block in 3/4-inch strips. So the two of these combined, you can do a number of different layouts using the 2 rulers with all 3 different blocks. In addition to log cabin, they all do courthouse steps as well as an offset log cabin, and you'll see how to do those on here as well. Okay, so to use the ruler, what you're going to do is start with your center square. So on this particular block, I started with a 2.5-inch square, and that is the block that's squared up to this. Now I'm going to show you the step by steps, but we're going to show the bigger ruler because it's easier for you to see. So come on up here, my photographer. Let's show them. Okay, so we started with our center block. And on your ruler, you're going to see you have squares. You can see they're marked in white or black. And what you're doing is you're cutting your center square, and that's your centering square for your log cabin center. Now, the straps, you don't have to pre-measure. That's the beauty of these rulers. You can go right to your stash and start pulling anything out of your stash as long as it has one straight edge. So what I've done is taken my first piece and placed it here, stitched it on and pressed it out, and then trim straight. Add my next piece, press it, and press everything into what you're adding, trim it, add my third piece, and keep going until I get my 4th piece on. So there I have a very raggedy looking log cabin square. But what I do is take the second square and lay it on my center, trim, and then turn it, trim again, and I end up with a perfect round. And then you just keep adding your strips until you've finished your whole block to the size you want. Now, if you were doing a offset one, then what you're going to do is the same thing. Cut your first square, and then you're going to take your first 2 pieces, add them on, press them out, and trim it using this, setting your block at the second, move it to the third to trim the third bit, and just keep going. So if you were adding another one, you can see you'd move this square to here, trim here, and then you'd flip the whole darn thing around, move it up to here, move it up to here, and move it up here until you had a 12.5-inch offset log cabin square. Okay, perfect. Okay, so some of the things that you can do with these are, this is the 8-inch, and what I've done is added a strip to each of my colors, my colored strips, as I've added them, and then put the next strip on. This was the first project I ever did with a log cabin ruler. It's 8-inch squares, and there's 8 of them. It took 3 hours from learning how to use it to making the 8 blocks, putting them together, adding your borders, and quilting it and binding it. 3 hours complete. Quick, easy project. They make it so easy and so precise. The next thing that I did, well, not the next thing, but this was one of the other things I did. This is your offset squares. You can see the same as this, but my little squares are all in the center. So this is actually 4 blocks, and then you just put a corner piece on and turn it with your curved seam and just keep going. The patterns that for the projects I'm showing today are on our online store. Just look at Cut Loose Press and you'll find them there. Okay. The next thing I learned about these rulers was you could make things whip and dive and turn and twist by using them. They have 3 different ones, or we have 3 different ones, and I think that this actually is all there are. Curvy log cabins. And with the curvy log cabin, one side is wider strips than the other side. And that's going to show on this pillow. So you can see we have wider strips here and narrower strips down here to give you that curved effect on the different blocks. So there's 16 blocks in that pillow to create the effect of the circle or the crosses. And then the opposite block to that is with the wider in the dark color and the narrower here, actually the placement of them. So the narrow is still the white, but it's placed differently to form the circles on the circles. So your wavy ruler will do so much. Like I said, we have tons of patterns of cut loose patterns online. Shouldn't say tons, but there's a few using these rulers. Okay, so check them out. So your treat for the next couple of days or 3